talking about. W in the chat. First one of 2025. The Bears avoid the death pit known as 0-3, winning 31-14 over the Dallas Cowboys. Gotta love taking out America's team in a game that Chicago controlled early and didn't let Dallas sniff a comeback. It's wonderful what happens when you're not playing a top 5 defense for the first 2 weeks of the year, how competent the offense looks. It's kind of weird how that works. And well, it's another revenge game. Last week it was Chicago trying to exact revenge on Detroit, mainly Ben Johnson trying to win against his former team in their former building. And here in week 3, it's Bears former head coach and current Cowboys defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. Oh man, I almost had to throw up after saying his name again. So bad. It's just the stench that comes from saying his name. He comes back to Chicago as the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, and, well, I'll tell you what. Matt Eberflus is finally developing Caleb Williams. Because he had his best game as a pro against Matt Eberflus's fraudulent defense, really cementing the legacy of this guy who was just awful in Chicago, and today really proved that this guy is just a natural loser in the NFL. Unfortunate, but that's just how it is. And this proves that the Bears made the right decision firing Matt Eberflus, because holy cow, was his defense terrible today. I know they were without Deron Bland, but holy cow, the secondary was absolutely cooked. But Bears fans, let's be honest. Were we expecting Matt Eberflus to have a good defense in this game? Were we surprised about what we saw out there from the Dallas defense, considering what the Bears defense looked like for the last 3 years? I mean, this doesn't surprise me at all. Woo, that was bad. That was a rough showing for Matt Eberflus. Revenge was not exacted for Ben Johnson last week in Detroit, as the Bears were just embarrassed in that game. But revenge is also not served for a guy like Matt Eberflus against the Chicago Bears, as the Bears had a statement win early this season, mainly because they're finally playing a team who didn't win 14 games last year. Wow, I'm surprised. I'm so surprised that the Bears finally looked like a competent organization when they don't have to play a team who won 14 games last year. Oh, by the way, I know we were all dogging about how bad Minnesota looked against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday night last week, but they just mollywopped the Cincinnati Bengals with a backup quarterback. They put up 48, and they didn't let Cincinnati score a touchdown until the very end of that football game. That was just a clinic for Minnesota. They are a good football team again this year. So a game like that proves again there wasn't that big of a steep drop-off as some of us were thinking after last year or whatever, right? They're still a good team. They're still going to be a competitive team in the NFC. And then we have yet to see Detroit play, but they get the Baltimore Ravens on the road on Monday night. It's a tough one for the Lions to go into that building and go win a game with Baltimore. But if they do, woo, that's really impressive. They'll be well on their way to winning the NFC North again. Because that proves that their loss against the Packers was a bit of a fluke and just some growing pains with first-year offensive coordinator and defense. Because if they win against the Ravens, it proves that their loss to the Packers was more just chalk it up to a first game for a new offensive and defensive coordinator. Got to remember and got to learn to and adapt to life without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. But man, speaking of Ben Johnson, oh baby, I think they're starting to build something in Chicago. Now, I don't want to overreact, but this is more what I expected this team to look like going into the season. Again, not a top 5 defense they're playing. In fact, this is a team that just let Russell Wilson throw for over 450 yards last week. I know they won, but still, Russell Wilson was able to turn the clock back 8-9 years to prime Russell Wilson in 2025. But hey, they won that game, so you kind of got to take what you can get. But the defense looked bad again today. for Dallas at least. I mean, let's be real. I was expecting this game to be a total shootout. I was not going to be surprised if this game ended up being 41-38, 38-34, 45-40, something ridiculous like that. But I also knew that because everyone's expecting a shootout, this felt like it was going to be the most 17-14, 20-19 type of game. We didn't get either of those. We got a 3-score game. It was pretty, honestly, run-of-the-mill despite all the yards picked up from both teams. This one really wasn't too close. Well, and everyone going into this game was excited to see the Bears offense versus the Cowboys defense. Yeah, the Cowboys defense maybe hasn't been that great this season, but again, old head coach knows he knows those players. Like, the vast majority of that Bears offense is still there. Really, the big changes, Olamide Zaccheaus and Colston Loveland. And Colston Loveland didn't even play for the majority of the game. He went out with a bit of a hip injury. I don't think it'll be something that sidelines him next week against Las Vegas, but, it did take him out for about half the game. And didn't matter. They were absolutely burnt toast in this game. Holy cow, did Caleb Williams just light up Matt Eberflus. Makes a statement proving that Matt Eberflus was the problem and not Caleb Williams last season, because that coaching staff was god-awful. I mean, as if we haven't said this enough. This game further proves that. Caleb Williams, with the game of his career so far, 4 touchdowns, no picks, almost 300 yards, went for 298. It's pretty much a 300-yard game. And he wasn't sacked. First time in his career, he was not sacked. So, again, the head coach that knows and oversaw Caleb Williams take a vast majority of the 68 sacks that he took last season, for him to not get a sack of him this week is unreal. I mean, it's embarrassing for Matt Eberflus. He embarrassed himself in Soldier Field yet again. Old habits die hard. Rome Odunze with another touchdown catch, his 4th in 3 games, which opened the scoring. I mean, that was super cool. On a 3rd down, early in the game, you want to see some aggressiveness. You want to see something big. You want to see them convert early. Dart. I mean, Odunze had Trayvon Diggs on skates. Dude, that guy stumbled right out of the break. He was wide open. And that was a perfect pass from Caleb Williams. But, hey, that drive was not going to happen without Tyreek Stevenson ripping the ball out of Javonte Williams' hands and getting the Bears the ball back after a sloppy start offensively, going 3 and out to open the game. But the team did not quit. The defense didn't break. And I think that's something that's really important as well. There were so many games like that last year. The Bears offense goes 3 and out if they get the ball first. Other team gets the ball, they go down and score a touchdown. Bears offense gets the ball back, maybe another 3 and out. Maybe they pick a first down, but bad. Other team gets the ball, touchdown, it's 14-0 before the Bears can even move down the field with any sort of efficiency. And so, when we're at a point now where the defense can step up and put the offense on their backs when they need it, that's huge. That's huge, especially for a defense that looked lost last week. So I am very impressed with the defense performance. And Tyreek Stevenson's caught a lot of flack this week. To see him come up with a play like that against Javonte Williams and ripping it out of his hands after a big gain, that was huge, and it led to the Odunze touchdown. Cowboys would then go down and kick a field goal, but after Devin Duvernay smartly takes a knee in the end zone, Brandon Aubrey doesn't actually let it get it in the landing zone, interestingly enough. But one play from the 35-yard line. What do the Bears decide to do to open the drive? They'll hand it off to DeAndre Swift. Psych! He pitches it back to Caleb Williams. It's a flea flicker. Everyone's losing their mind on TV. You watch the right angle, everyone in their seats in Soldier Field they all start to stand up. as Swift pitches it back to Caleb Williams. They realize we might be seeing something special. Caleb Williams fires it as far as he can down the field, and on the other end, it's Luther Burden who makes the catch, breaks through a tackle, and gets into the end zone for his first career score, and the Bears convert on a 65-yard trick play, flea flicker touchdown. They're up 14-3, and the stadium loses their minds. That was astounding. Oh my gosh. I was not happier for any player besides Caleb Williams because, again, he's caught so much flack. So much flack for the deep ball. 62 air yards on the pass, the longest in the entire league this season so far. What a call, what a throw, what a catch. And Soldier Field was loving it in the first quarter. Bears led 14-3 at the end of the first quarter, which was super nice to see. Obviously, even after the touchdown to Burden, we're all like, okay, we've seen this story before several times, and that's where it's like Matt Eberflus has scarred this fan base where we're like, we just had an amazing start offensively. We just hit a flea flicker touchdown play. And sometimes that little voice just shows up in the back of your head like, it's an 11-point lead. They can easily blow this. But you got to look at the positives because Caleb Williams was 5 of 7 in the first quarter for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. He just torched that defense with 2 long touchdown passes. Gotta love it for the guy. He's been much maligned throwing down the field, especially towards the sideline too. Both those throws along the sideline. Love what I saw from the Bears offense in the first quarter. I'll say this now before we really keep going. The reason why Dallas was not explosive, or at least as explosive as they were last week, is they couldn't open the field for their other receivers because CeeDee Lamb went down with an injury as Noah Sewell fell on his ankle on his first touch of the game, which was a carry, by the way. So that really sucks. You don't wish for players to go and get hurt. But it was a huge loss for Dallas because it's their top offensive playmaker outside of Dak Prescott. And all the, receiving pressure is going to be placed upon George Pickens, who had a nice one-handed touchdown catch in the second quarter, which would end up tying up the football game. But outside of that, he had a little factor in this football game. So, yeah, Cowboys tied up after the nice touchdown catch from George Pickens after the Bears allow another field goal. They score the 2-point conversion to Jalen Tolbert, and on the ensuing drive, the Bears almost get into the end zone again. It's not a great throw from Caleb Williams on third down. Odunze, it's in his hands, but the football's long ways. It's easy to be dropped and knocked out of your hands. It was. They kicked the field goal, 17-14. Okay, cool. They get the ball back with about 2.5 to play in the first half. I'm like, okay, they could totally get some more points out of this. But they weren't just looking for a field goal. Caleb Williams with a nice throw deep to Luther Burden again. He didn't have too many catches, but he made the most of them. Had 2 deep ones. And he got it inside the 10. First and goal. It's Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet finally getting some attention. Catches his first touchdown of the year. And the Bears go up 10 points at halftime. Loveland had just the 1 catch in the first half for 31 yards. He did not really play too much after the hip injury. And so, despite 2 big plays from the tight ends, still not a lot of action for him. But the 2 catches between Loveland and Kmet were big impact plays. I'd love to see them next week. Again, get the tight ends more involved. I want to see some more easy targets to the tight ends because they're important. They're both capable pass catchers, and I want to see it from this offense. But I won't complain too much. They won by 17 points, and Kmet did get the touchdown. I'd like to see a little bit more volume, but what can you do? The times that they were called upon, they made their plays, and they made it count. Here's the thing. I was actually very impressed in the second half. It wasn't just DeAndre Swift, but they were finally giving a couple carries to Kyle Monungai. again, had like one or two important carries. Not even important carries, just one or two carries in the first two games. And it just became incredibly predictable when he was out there. They were going to throw it. So giving him a couple handoffs I thought was really important. And despite the rushing offense not being world-beating, the commitment to it I was still really very happy with. Again, only 87 yards total from this rushing offense, which is just not going to cut it in most scenarios. Just 3 yards a carry. Swift and Monangai both under 3 yards a carry. I was not loving it from the rushing offense, but they made some plays and they picked up a couple yards when they needed to. And on the first drive of the second half for the Chicago Bears, they get everyone involved. And frankly, despite the running game having the struggles they had, to start the second half, they orchestrated a 19-play, nearly 10-minute drive with 11 straight run plays in the middle of it and converted it for a touchdown. Caleb Williams found DJ Moore on 4th and goal. They gambled with a 10-point lead, trying to come out of a long drive with 6 instead of 3. They get the 6 with DJ Moore pretty much just standing like this, like me and you right now. Right here on the numbers. Standing wide open in the back of the end zone, and Caleb finds him. I mean, that was beautiful. I mean, and from that moment, I was like, they gambled on a drive like this, and it worked. And the guy was wide open. I don't know the last time I saw something like that. It was the longest touchdown drive from a sheer play standpoint. The last time the Bears had a drive like this where it was like 19 plays and they scored a touchdown was back in 2001. Guys, this is the first time a drive like this has happened in my lifetime. That was phenomenal. After all the explosive plays and the phenomenal theatrics of the first half, let's go out there and just pound this thing through the Cowboys' defensive line. And they did. And then after that drive, the wheels came off the bus for the Cowboys. They were gifted a first down after a bit of a ticky-tacky call. You could argue on Tyreek Stevenson that gave the Cowboys a first down on 3rd and long. And I was sitting there like, all right, well, there have been a couple maybe ticky-tacky calls that Bears fans could argue wasn't really, kind of went against the Bears. But they let that get away from them. The holding call against Darnell Wright, which led to the Santos miss against the Vikings. Vikings would go on and score 3 touchdown drives right after. The Tesla catch not being ruled inbounds and being ruled out of bounds. Lions score a touchdown, and the Bears don't look the same coming out of the locker room. This happens against Stevenson, and the very next play, it pops right out of the hands of George Pickens. And, well, as Kevin and Tom were saying on the broadcast, it's easy pickings for Tremaine Edmonds. And he picks off Dak Prescott. And, well, the game wasn't completely over. The Bears would give the ball back to the Cowboys. And they would get to the end zone. 4th and goal from the 1. I don't remember exactly how much time was left, but around like 4-ish minutes. A little under 5 minutes to go in the game. You're like, okay, if they score here, they still have all 3 timeouts. They need to force a 3 and out. But don't even need to worry about that because Tremaine Edmonds comes through again and picks off Dak Prescott in the end zone to put a nice bow on this one. Oh, and we got a Joe Milton sighting at the very end of the game after the game was out of reach and Dallas basically admitted defeat. And, well, he was throwing just as hard as he could on that drive. Threw a pick in the end zone to Kevin Byard. And so the defense ends up forcing 4 takeaways. They take the ball away 3 times in the 4th quarter, leading by 17 points. It's a complete effort from this team, holding Dallas to 0 second half points. Defense bent but did not break, and those takeaways helped in a big way to getting to that, like, no points in the second half because Dallas for sure had a field goal drive and a touchdown drive in their hands before 2 picks from Tremaine Edmonds changed all that. And I already gave some props to Tyreek Stevenson. Another guy on the defense that has faced a lot of pressure this offseason and into this season is Tremaine Edmonds. He is the highest paid linebacker on this team, and he has not been the best linebacker on this team. He's been overshadowed by T.J. Edwards, though he hasn't been a bad linebacker per se. But there are moments where you're like, we're paying him a lot of money. You'd want him to make that play, or you want him to do something. He showed up, led the team in total tackles with 15. He had a ton of solo, if I remember correctly from reading the box score, it was 9 solo tackles. He had 2 pass breakups, and he had the 2 picks. So I gotta love what I saw from Tremaine Edmonds in this one. He was a vital part to their success. And so was Noah Sewell, who had another really solid outing in place of T.J. Edwards, the injured. And so did Noah Sewell coming in for the injured T.J. Edwards after 3 games. He's looked pretty good. I like what I see from Noah Sewell coming in for an injured guy. It almost feels like there isn't a drop in production right now. He's been a great run stopper. They have targeted him a little bit, but he has done a good job in what he is being asked to do, and he's doing enough, and he's helping this team win rather than helping them lose. This is the most complete football game I've seen this team play in a couple of years. I mean, they've had a couple of just resounding wins. Carolina last year, the Jaguars last year, the Raiders in 2023, just to name a couple. But those were either against struggling quarterbacks or backups. And they were all at home or they were on a neutral site. This one, again, while being at home, I thought that this was a very, very complete effort from a team that has a lot of pressure coming into this game, and they played up to potential. It's not like we're in the middle of the year and we're trying to find a way to get a win on the schedule. Like, this was a high-pressure game under the lights, not necessarily prime time, but again, the 4:25 Eastern slot time, which is a more important time slot than just the standard 1 p.m. Eastern slot. More people are watching it since it's the America's Game of the Week on Fox, and they played up to potential. They showed up in this game. Yeah, gotta love what I saw from this team today. That was very, very nice. And I can give all the praise that I want for this game. But the big thing I want to see as the team heads on the road to Vegas, can they replicate a performance like this? Can the offense go out there on the road and play like this again? Can the defense find a way to stop Geno Smith in that receiving core, along with Ashton Jeanty, who is a bruising running back who breaks a lot of tackles? If they can make sure they can get Jeanty down on first contact, I think that's going to improve their chances of winning that game next week against the Raiders a whole lot. But overall, you gotta love what you saw from the offense and the defense today. Defense forces 4 takeaways, couple of sacks. Montez Sweat finally got a sack again. It feels like it's been an eternity since he's got home. Glad he was able to get one. And then on offense, I love that they're spreading the ball around. 6 different ball carriers. We had 8 different players catch a pass in this game. I love seeing that. Keep on getting as many players as you can the football. Spread the ball around. It doesn't hurt. They have playmakers. Let's use them. And they used them in this game. And what do you know? They won by 3 scores. I'm going to say it right now. If we see another performance like this next week against the Raiders, I feel pretty good going into the bye week, because the week 5 bye initially sounds like a death sentence, because now you got to go through this marathon at the end of the season without a bye week. But look what the Rams did last year. They were very injured going into their week 5 bye, and they rallied after they were able to get healthy and use that bye week to get healthy. I hope that that's what this team can do. Maybe get Edwards healthy, get Gordon healthy, get those guys who have been hurt from the beginning healthy and ready to play week 6 at Washington. But overall, I'm really pleased with the effort the team showed today. A 17-point win. It could have been much worse, but Caleb Williams was the star of the show, is 100% the player of the game, and that is exactly how you want to win your first game as a head coach if you're Ben Johnson. go out there and look like the better team from start to finish. Don't need to worry about blowing a lead. Just put the foot down and stop Dallas dead in their tracks. Don't give them any momentum, and that's not what they did. They didn't give them momentum. They stopped them in their tracks, picked off Prescott a couple times in the second half, and got the W. So at Vegas next week, this is probably their easiest road game on the schedule this season. I mean, if it's not that, it's San Francisco, but that's all the way in week 17. Who knows if they're even going to be in the playoff picture by then? Most likely not, with how this team has played over the last decade and a half. But who knows? That's like 3 months away. We can't even start looking at that game. Got to worry about what we see next week against the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's see what the Bears can do. Can they get to 2-0 all time at Allegiant Stadium against the Raiders? Hey, who remembers the last game the Bears played in Las Vegas? Justin Fields threw his first touchdown pass to Jesper Horsted. It's probably the most convincing win that season. But, hey, they're going to try and get to 2-2. If they go out there and win by, say, 17, 20 points again, I'm going to the bye week with a lot of optimism at 2-2. I know that the first two games were pretty bad losses, but when you're at 2-2 at the bye week and you just come off of two big wins, you know, it might inspire some optimism in the city of Chicago. Proves to everyone that it's not over after two games. Anyways, that's all I've got. Should let you guys get back to the rest of your day. But what a win for those Bears against America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Big win. I love to see it. Hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button if you really like this and want to see more content from me. Make sure you keep the conversation going in the comment section below. And I will see you all in the next video. Have a good one, everyone.